Hello and welcome to our third edition of our talk. This is the Spirit Experts Friends, and we have a very special guest from the very beginning onwards. First of all, welcome Dawn Davies to our talk, and of course my fellow colleagues, Steve Beal, Bernhard Schäfer, and Tobias Gorn. Welcome tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great out here in California, where it's 27 degrees.
Well, I can't top that. It's 28 outside.
Same in Germany, Hawaiian shirt weather.
So Toby and I are not so lucky, and am I allowed to swear, is the watershed over? It's really miserable. There you go. I'll behave myself.
Absolutely. Just for the viewers, I show you what I need to apply just to keep me fairly dry and happy. But it is a lovely occasion. If you don't mind a couple of words, so thank you so much all for being here. This is a fairly special one because usually we have some exciting, beautiful world whiskies with a nice distiller as a mystery guest popping up. But this time, actually, all of you are really kind because I took this on as a huge article and research project with I've got 25 glasses around me right now. Try not to shake the table too much. The thing was, I wanted to find out what is the best whiskey drinking, tasting sort of vessel, sort of glass. And we had a lot of responses from nice friends all around in England, the UK, Scotland, and all around the world. So if you don't mind, before we start, I need to do a couple of shout outs, the boring stuff, and then we will start talking about the glasses. I had a huge response, which was absolutely shocking. I was hoping I will have 2 glasses, and I decided which one is the best, and job is done. That didn't happen. So we had Urban Bar, and it's a good story, actually, with Steve. We were talking about an old glass to use for a tasting, which was discontinued many years ago. So I found these guys. They're in the UK, and they do loads of different bar glasses, and they nice thistle shaped ones. There's a lovely proper tasting glass, and many others, including a little jug to add water. We'll talk about adding water later. The best was actually a quake. Let's not talk about quakes as a tasting glass because obviously the good old quake will not win, but we need to have quake as a celebrity mention. And I haven't seen a glass one, so this is quite handy. You don't have to polish it all the time like your pewter quakes. And there's plenty of others. We're going to be talking about the good old Need glass, which is very exciting. And there were quite some research going in there and talks if you should or should not put water in the good old whiskey. So that's going to be exciting with a little pipette. We had Angel Share. They came out with a new glass. Unfortunately, sorry, my garden is the lighting is not perfect. So they sent me some brand new glasses. So there's a debut of this glass. Very exciting. And also our friends from Riedel, they sent me loads of glasses. And I used to be in the wine industry, so was Dawn, and we had a look at, the Pinot Noir glass and, the, nice Riesling and this and that and Cabernets. And this is the Riedel mold glass, which is on the market for a long time now. Very exciting. I'm going to be trying all of these. So there's the Riedel mold glass, so if you can see it. And they also do...
Is this the...
Tell me. Bernhard?
Is this the filigrane one? The glass, is it very thin? The Riedel one, because they have 2 varieties.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty. They send me an entire palette of Riedels. What I really love this is the Riedel Spirit glass. So before anyone misunderstands us, this is a spirit glass, mainly fruit spirits. So if you're growing up in a fruit spirits environment, Austria, Hungary, Germany, Alsace, this is brilliant. This is a fruit spirit glass, but actually it's superb. Not very cheap though.
Well.
So you mustn't break it because this is a very fragile thing. But these are fantastic.
May I jump in there, Toby? Because
Tell me.
You silently went from glassware to whiskey glasses. So I thought that the main topic tonight is talking about spirits glasses on its own, not only whiskey glasses.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the list is very long. We have some really nice Irish, the Tua glass, which is very exciting. I really, really enjoy these. I just got them in yesterday. So I've got a bottle of Teeling to try this with. So very exciting.
Hard work, I see.
I mean, there's some left. Come on.
I mean, I think you've tested the glasses very, very well.
Thoroughly.
I'm quite good at the testing. But this is brilliant. The only thing I hate it for, because, there's the Skellig Michael, this amazing rock formation. The base of this glass is was inspiration. I mean, other way around. And it's really exciting, but it's one more for my bucket list, and it's in Ireland. So there's plenty of others. We have fairly similar shapes. Most of them are, like nice tasting glasses, fairly similar. This one is from Jan from the Spanish Whiskey Club, and this is made in Poland, actually, from amber glass. So there's plenty. I was absolutely bamboozled at how many glasses are out there, and that's not even half of it. So before I get too boring, I would love to ask you guys, what do you like and what do you use before we get our first guest in? What do you encounter usually? So, and what do you have at home?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, please.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so all of the five of us work together in various spirits competitions globally, and every one of those competitions uses a different style of glassware, and sometimes those glasses are sponsors of the competition. The important thing in those instances, as we evaluate the products, is everybody doing the same thing and using the same glass and the same measure? And if we're adding water, are we all doing it? Because it's consistency and uniformity when you're evaluating a spirit. For example, in San Francisco, the World Spirits Competition is sponsored by the Neat glass, which is understandably different and in some ways very controversial on the commercial side. And yet they maintain a certain amount of scientific exploration in developing this glass and suggest you don't need to add water and that the aromas rise because of the shape of the glass. And I think it does that very well. Most of us, at least in the whiskey world, are used to drinking whiskey from rocks glasses, or sort of what we call buckets. And it sort of points out the difference to me between the fact that whiskey drinkers are there for the social environment as well, and enjoyment, and the occasion and the ambiance. And one glass might contribute quite a lot to that, as opposed to a more scientific explanation. So I don't really have a favorite. I kind of like them all in their own way. But for personal evaluation, when I'm sitting here at home working with my clients' products, I use this sort of stemless petite wine glass because it has the right curvature. The aromas rise. I don't need a fairly large sample to do it, to get the effect. I'm allowed to add a little water if I need to, and it fits my nose perfectly. In the US, this is about $1.50. But would I want to drink this on a social occasion and put a 50-year-old whiskey in it? Hell no. It's really all about the, who you're with and what you're doing and where you are. So lots of good opportunities here. And I know, Toby, as sartorially resplendent as he always is always doing the proper thing. I don't know, Toby, what do you think? You kind of agree with me on that? It's partly what you're doing and who you're doing it with, as well as the technical aspect. of the glassware?
I think it's absolutely up to the occasion. So I drank whiskey out of many vessels, probably that none of them should even know about in my life. And that's why I said, as being someone who always overdresses, this nice Riedel, this is brilliant. It's about 40 quid a pop. Absolutely beautiful. Might not be the best tasting glass, but it's really good if you want to be very impressing some, some guests. But then many other glasses, and to be honest, I personally, I believe when you go to a competition, you have the glasses there or your friend's house, and you never say when your friend opens his favorite whiskey, be that Jack Daniels or the most amazing, maybe slightly bit more exciting or more special in a kind of a bourbon. It doesn't matter the vessel when you're drinking with people. You don't want to offend them. And end of the day, if it's a good party, it's a good party. But evaluating and tasting all the sensory stuff is totally different. So I agree 100%. And there's also very fancy, nice.
Jump in there. Oh yeah, sure. You get straight to the Mercedes class, huh?
Oh yeah.
I mean, as you said, there is always a little bit like, what do you use it for? And commonly, these are glasses. I mean, this is the Rustal glass. It's a little bit smaller than the Riedel you showed. We use this for fruit spirits, as you said. And of course, you can upgrade that experience to a mouth-blown glass like this, which costs about 45 quids or something like this for 60 quids. But I mean, you've been here to taste for the Swiss Whiskey, Gin and Rum Awards, and something we are using over here, and it's almost the same than Steve also showed us, is the Spade Ram glass. And this is from the company you already mentioned. It's a British company. And this is perfectly fine. I mean, if you look at the shape, it's almost like the other one. And the first thing to break when we move glasses through Europe is always the stem.
It's the stem,
so
absolutely.
We use those lovely small glasses, and the breakage is almost gone. So I think this is...
always functionality.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because this is a nice Spiegelau. And sorry, don't come.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I do a lot of assessing of spirits on a job level. Like I'm a buyer, so you have to taste all the time, and I am quite obsessive about glassware. Like for me, in terms of wine, I would never drink champagne out of a coupe, for example, because I want to taste. I want to feel wine. I don't want all the aroma just to disappear into the planet. And like I think for me it's very different. I think Steve was absolutely 100% right when he's like it's about the moment. I love drinking. If I'm sitting at home, I'll have a little tumbler of whiskey or rum or what have you. But if I'm assessing, I want a glass that allows me to get the most out of the product as possible. And I think there's certain glasses, like I don't drink cognac out of a balloon, for example, because it keeps the product. And I think there's not enough people that really pay attention to the glass in the way that there's not enough people that really pay attention to tasting. We're very good drinkers sometimes, we're just not very good tasters occasionally. And the glass really enhances an experience for me. She said, I gotta be quiet now.
Very important. Bernhard, what do you use usually? What do you have at home that you go to standard?
Well, I have a lot of, I have about 20 glasses here around. For assessing, what I really like is these glasses with these. I don't know if you can see it. It's the measurement where you enter the spirit, and then you have these dilution marks. This is a very nice one.
That's the whiskey nosing glass,
it's also
isn't it?
Very handy. And what I also use quite a lot, especially in my whiskey club. I don't have glass for my whiskey club here, but I have viewers use those. This is a German glass from the Spiegelau company, which is comparatively.
Oh, hello.
Everybody knows the Glencairn glass, and if you see that, it's much bigger and has a stem as well. The only disadvantage is at home, you cannot really put it in the dishwasher there. This is more convenient to put it in the dishwasher, but I like this glass very much, and the one I showed you first. And of course, the best glass for a German taster is this one.
Oh yeah, there you go. Fantastic.
Wait. We're talking about glass, Bernhard. That's stemware.
Yeah, well, I have it in glass as well, but don't be so. And a nice one is this as well. This was a PR glass from Courvoisier one
Yeah, blind
Fantastic.
tasting glasses. I got some as well.
I like those blind tasting glasses. Actually, they help you a lot, especially with some of these
And if you don't have
heavily
this glass
cherried
in hand,
whiskies, which are not that
these large
dark.
big
Yeah.
glasses, you can put half a liter of beer in these glasses as well. It absolutely fits in the big one.
Brilliant.
Not in
And
the small
you
Are
can
you
one,
serious?
also
but
make
in the big one.
you can make a big nice cocktail in those. Just you need to only make it once,
What I
and it's
did
good for
once
the day.
was because Dawn, you said you want to get most of the spirit out of a glass. I once did a tasting in Austria or an assessment of different spirits, and it was blind, but we had 3 different glasses. This was very interesting. Because every taster had the same spirit in 3 different glasses. One was more this one, a regular one, and then we had a kind of champagne flute, and I forgot the third one. So this is very interesting, having the same spirit out of different glasses. I mean, I also have a very, very old glass from the Share company. Those people are familiar with rum. This is also for assessing rum. This is a kind of copita, but very long. You know? Again, if you compare it with the Glencairn.
What is
Look
it?
at that.
Hemden.
You see that?
Oh,
Can you send some through?
I wish I can. I have to go the other way, don't I? It's great house.
I believe Steve
Yes,
has
good girl. Good girl.
Steve told me a story
Bravo.
about glassware and staff training. If you don't mind sharing that quickly.
Oh, yeah. Years ago, I had all my tasting staff that we used to take to all the whiskey shows and fests and whiskey lives. And we were doing a little bit of training beforehand. And I got out about 5 or 6 different kinds of tasting glasses for each of them. And we went through a sort of talking about each glass and what people smelled, what they tasted. We had some water. We went through the whole 9 yards that you would do professionally as a judge, actually. And I got all sorts of guesses about what they were, what the products were, what region of Scotland they came from, and how old they were, and which were the best. And they were all quite amused at the end when I showed them it was Johnnie Walker Red Label, all of them. And so it's very suggestible when you use a glass, and it's also sort of, a lot of it is you. You're putting your own personality and your own thoughts into it. And typically, they liked the glasses best that they liked. They thought that was the best whiskey, even though all of them were the same exact samples. I think, and this may be a good segue to our first guest, Marty, I think.
I was just about to say, absolutely brilliant.
One of the favorite glasses is always the Glencairn glass because the stems don't break. They're easily put in a dishwasher. They convey a certain message of elitist personality in the Scotch world because they are the official glass of most of the Scotch whiskey industry, and quite a bit of the bourbon industry as well use them. So typically they have a great reputation. I've always thought it's a great glass, and certainly for those kind of events where you're going to go from brand to brand tasting different marks of whiskeys, the Glencairn is really good. So
Steve, what do you think? Shall we get him in?
Ask him in.
Get the man himself.
Hello.
Good to see you, Marty.
So for any of the viewers who, I mean, you should all know Marty, obviously, Martin Duffy of Glencairn US, a good friend who helped to send loads of Glencairn samples. And I told Martin that it really don't need that many because I have, so as you, probably had 500-600 Glencairns in the garage using it for tasting. And that's how it started to see Glencairn, such a classic. And what's happening, I reckon, was the 20th anniversary not so long ago, and you even sent me some really nice, exciting other versions of it. So tell me a little bit about how did you get into it, and what's the crack with Glencairn? What's happening?
Well, how I got into it, actually, Stephen was there. He and I both started roughly around the same time with Johnnie Walker back in the 90s. They were looking for brand ambassadors, and part-time for about 7 years. And then about 2003, we all went, well, 7 of us went full time. And Steve, you might know better than I, but I always thought we were the first American whiskey ambassadors. They brought guys over from Scotland a lot, but you really didn't see too many. Excuse me. Oh, the cat. Okay.
Yeah, we were the first. We were the first, Marty, and I may have been among the first recruited. Certainly, my name comes first on the alphabetical list, so I guess I'd be number one.
Yeah, height-wise, though, I was the tallest. And so actually, it was through all that I ended up with Glencairn, in that the Glencairn glass got its start around the year 2000. And it had its coming out parties at all the big whiskey festivals, Whiskey Live, especially over in the UK, but eventually here in the US. And of course, Whiskey Fest here. And we are still partners with both of those events, plus many, many more. But I met the Davidsons. Raymond Davidson, who started Glencairn almost, we're going to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Glencairn Crystal next year. He came up with the idea of the glass roughly about the same time he came up with the idea or the starting up the company itself. And but he put it on the shelf. He didn't think anybody would go for a whiskey glass. And at that time, if I'm sure most of you guys would remember the 80s and even the 90s, the 90s was when Scotch was having a renaissance, bourbon was on the rise, but people still were very new, rediscovering whiskey. So having a glass for it. I bartended during the 90s, and I remember pouring whiskey into rocks glasses, maybe a brandy snifter, but that was about it. There was no glass. And that's the incredible thing about Glencairn. In fact, I heard Paul Davidson, who is Ray Davidson's son, points out that about within the last 2 years, I think it was Malt Advocate magazine, had an article, the 10 best things to happen to whiskey over the last 100 years. And the Glencairn glass was one of them. Because prior to that, you did not, before Glencairn created that glass and put it out, you did not have a whiskey glass. You had a brandy glass, and even a brandy snifter glass isn't exactly what everybody goes for. But it's been growing ever since. I think last year they tallied it up, and about 25 million Glencairn glasses have been sold worldwide over the last 20 years. So not bad.
Marty, you see, I'm still doing my research, very early stage, and there's loads of videos I'm watching. I'm having my little sandwich, in the lunchtime. And instead of watching a nice video about Austria, where I want to go to ski, finally, if I get out, or places, afar and exciting, I'm watching people reviewing glasses. And some of them are really nice and really exciting. And it's always, the Glencairn always pops up. Like, yeah, we had the tumblers. The tumblers are discounted because they're cool if you want to look, in your tweed. No pun there. But then the Glencairn, and what is better than the Glencairn, what is a bit more accessible value for money-wise, and it always pops up that I want to evaluate my glass, this one, compared to the Glencairn. And it's always compared to the Glencairn. So it's almost like, it is a new classic, as in the ground zero.
Well, it is the standard bearer. I mean, it's the first glass, and if you look at a lot of the other glasses that you guys were holding up, a lot of them imitate the shape of the Glencairn. A lot of them are
the other way around. Yeah.
Well, I know you're thinking. Well, but if you think about how if you really check them out, yes, there were a few, especially cognac glasses, but the thing with the Glencairn glass is that it did incorporate the input from the Scotch whiskey industry. We had 5 master blenders come in, Richard Patterson being one of them, Dave Stewart being another, come in and give their 2 cents. And it's funny, I mean, I will admit, Richard Patterson, even though he is helpful in designing the Glencairn glass, he still uses our Copita glass.
Yeah.
Instead,
Yep.
he prefers the stem.
Yep.
Which is great. And again, I think it's great that there's all these different glasses out there because everybody has a different preference, just like they have a different preference in whiskey and style of whiskey.
To make a compliment to these glasses, I mean the shape of this is not new. But the good thing is, I mean these glasses are nice for assessment, but they're very delicate. You know, you have to be careful, whatever. This is a man's glass. You have something in your hand. That's I think that's the biggest achievement.
Don't say anything.
Of the feeling of a tumbler, the actual shape of a tasting glass. And also you can throw it if somebody's telling bullshit. You can throw it at this person and it hits perfectly.
There's that too.
Wait, boys, wait.
We incorporated that whole thought when designing the glass. The whole velocity that you can get out of it.
Martin, one question.
At me, so he does it very well as a Copita glass.
Martin,
yes.
One question about that crystal glass. I mean, in Dawn, you correct me if I'm wrong, but in the wine business, crystal glasses are out for the last 10 years, 15 years, especially the cut ones.
I think with glasses, we've always. I mean, I worked as a sommelier for a long time, and when I was at the Ledbury, which was my last sommelier official role, we used a lot of things like we used Riedel for the kind of posh glasses. We used Spiegelau. I like Zaltos, but there is this crystal we haven't really used for a long time because you want. I think when you're holding a glass, I mean, you talk a lot about how it tastes and how it affects smell, but for me, it's about how it feels in your hand. You want something that feels like you're drinking what you're drinking. So if I'm having an amazing, big, rich Burgundy, I want the glass to reflect the intensity and the power of that wine. Also we talk. The feel is so important, as important as the taste and the way it affects your palate and hits different points. And I think it's really important to kind of talk about that as well.
Well, sometimes the experience of drinking whiskey is more than what you're tasting. It is that, especially, again, I was discussing this with a gentleman yesterday. If you're down in Kentucky, you do want a nice cut crystal heavy tumbler with maybe even a big ice ball in it if you're drinking a high strength bourbon. It's part of the thing, like the leather wingback chair and the fireplace and the little puppy at your feet. That whole kind of experience is what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Give us the puppy. Martin, thank you so much. We need to get our next guest in, but thank you so much for taking the time and joining us, because you and Glencairn, obviously, legends.
Where can I get them, Martin? Where can I get them?
The Cobalt Blue is available on our website, or you can email me and I'll see about getting them to you. The black should be returning. We only had 1,000 of these and had a crazy Black Friday meltdown on our website. But this should be back in the fall.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
Can you put me up on the waiting list?
Sure. Yes. No problem, Arthur. That's no problem. Also, if you have really tiny hands, we have the wee Glencairn.
No. That's not for me.
See that? You can
So
drink
before
no one would even know
where
it.
it goes,
Okay.
Glencairn are also famous for their other products. And here's my Whiskey Hall of Fame decanter from Whiskey Magazine, which was the Davidsons gave me that. And previously I got another one from another award. So they do some really beautiful things. So they're great company.
Fantastic. Right, guys, just to give it a bit of more kind of contrast, we have an Australian friend here joining us, Denver, who makes an amazing type of engineered new type of whiskey glass. So can we welcome Denver in the studio?
Hi, how's it going?
Hello,
Ooh,
how are you?
Should I change contract? I'll do this maybe.
Yeah, great.
Good to see you,
How's
and
it
thank you
going?
so much for joining us, because it must be about 5 a.m. where you are. Or
Yeah, it's
5:30.
5:45, I think, a.m. It's I'm coming direct from my bed actually.
Good man, thank you so much. So before you start, and thank you so much, he sent me one of his Scotch glasses. It comes in this beautiful little packaging, and it looks like this. And please do tell us what is the crack, what is the design behind it, and how did it come up? I think it's quite a good
Yeah,
story.
no worries. So we started the company about 5 years ago, about 5.5 years ago. And it's been one hell of a journey. So I was, the unofficial story, but I was away in Myanmar. So my background is kind of mechanical engineering, and my business partner is production design engineer, and both of us are also industrial designers. So I was away on a trip in Myanmar and just trying the local whiskies and hanging out with another mate, and whiskey is like very, very cheap in Myanmar. So we ended up having a lot of it. And one night we'd both sort of polished off a bottle of it and a half. And I was just sketching away and just talking crap and blah, blah, blah. And then the next morning, actually woke up slightly dehydrated, I'd call it. And there was a sketch in the book. And I was like, oh, this is an interesting shape. And so then this shape this particular shape here, you can see the glass in the other one.
Was
it
that
kind
the
of like
whiskey
just
glass?
swirled around in my head for a couple of days. And I was just thinking about so in engineering, we look at like thermodynamics and fluid mechanics and a few different things, airflow and temperature control and all of that kind of stuff. So it was all kind of technical stuff that was floating around in my head, but I was just like thinking to myself, this particular shape, it should kind of technically work. But I was like, it was such a departure from what was kind of out there. So I thought maybe we'll just get a prototype done. I spoke to my business partner Lily, and he said, yeah, we'll get a prototype done. So we got one done by the CSIRO, which is the scientific arm of the Australian government. So one of the blowers there, and they just mainly do sort of scientific equipment because we're very precise guys, I guess. You might call it OCD or whatever you want to call it, but
It's fine.
yeah, so we just wanted this particular prototype done within these certain tolerances, just to see if it was real. Like in theory, it made sense. So anyway, like a little while later, prototype rocks up to my office, and then I was just then at office I had my cup of tea, well, different types of tea, and then a coffee, and so I just tried it with a cup of tea versus a normal mug, and it worked, and that just rarely ever happens in the world of engineering. And so I just couldn't wait to get home and try it with a whiskey, and obviously the whiskey was an exaggerated sort of effect on that particular glass. And then since then we've had, I guess, we like after that prototype, then we had a bit of help from Balvenie and another one called Starwood over here in Australia. So the founder of Starwood and another guy at Balvenie at the time, which was Sam Simmons. And then Sam, I think, ran it past another guy called David Stewart, who's the
Totally unknown.
master
The guy, David
probably
Stewart, you
doesn't
know
need
that.
an introduction, but yeah. He's a pretty amazing dude and very, very humble guy. Actually, the only glass that he's ever kind of written about. So that came up on Twitter, and we just had no idea, and then a whole bunch of people sent it to us. But since then we've been, I guess we've been reasonably successful. So it sort of sits in the top end of whiskey glasses, and in the way of technology, I think, and science, it's bar none. It is the best that we've tried against any other glass. Engineering and smell and taste wise, and accuracy to profile with a whole bunch of master blenders across the world. And we sell in all the countries that are featured on this particular show right now. So 234 retailers, I think now. But yeah, I understand that, like, it's a little bit expensive, but we have environmental and ethical accreditations, and it's the highest possible standard. So it's lead-free crystal, hand-blown, hand-cut, to within sort of engineering tolerances, which is kind of hard to do. So, and we're only just, there's just two of us plus a whole bunch of contractors, but we try and keep it pretty lean. And it was a passion project that's kind of gone out of control. So
it's really good. And that's why it really captured me when I was looking at what sort of glasses. Sorry, Bernhard, come on.
This is your. It looks like your glass. It's branded. From
yeah. Try that one back to back against our one. We've been showing that one a few times.
That's brilliant. So back to the topic, when we had this initial conversation, and you told me about the packaging itself. Can you tell me a tiny bit more about how did you come up with the packaging as a solution that you think it works? And I thought so.
Yeah, sure. So basically, this packaging is designed for disassembly. You've got like component parts that are compression fit, and so like the top is a shock absorber, like your sort of normal whiskey bottle, and so that takes in shock from the side there, and then circular, because that also distributes force. And then you've got another compression bit on the bottom, which you can remove for really easy recycling. And then none of it is actually coated. So it's like, it's honesty with materials. So then you can recycle it super easy without having any sort of coatings, really. It's just, it's a really simple sort of design, but we've never had a breakage in the history of the company because of that particular packaging. And the tolerance is on the inside. So it's not jumping around on the inside. It's kind of held in there. And there's also, like, we make sure that there's always a paper interface between the packaging and the glass. You don't want any sort of like real difference in the hardness of a material. And that's why we haven't had any breakages around the world.
Denver, may I ask a question?
Yeah, for sure, mate.
Looking at your glass, it's quite, I mean, optically wise, it's quite different from the rest of the glasses. Yep. How would you compare the difference of your glass to a common, say, other glass like this one, or like the Fistel glass, or however you call it? I mean, I got a mouth-blown one here that comes a little bit closer to your version. What's the difference, and what's the thought behind?
Okay, so what's really important is like the proportion from the spirit surface to the top, and then also the opening, and then also that curvature on the side. So the curvature on the side, it's called a convex sort of curve versus a concave, which kind of happens at the bottom there. So when you have a convex curve, you end up with instead of like circular airflow that you get in wine glasses, and you want that, and that will leave a layer of volatiles kind of at the top, and you get a little bit more of an alcohol pump when you have that circular airflow. As soon as you turn that to convex, then you remove that sort of circular airflow, and you end up with a lot of air that comes in and a lot of air that comes out. And then to control that, then you've got different lengths, and then you've got a different size opening on the top. So what we found was this particular set of proportions creates a certain sort of effect. And the best thing to do is actually try it. But it ends up with a great sort of split of notes through the top there that are kind of very easy to understand. Alcohol kind of sits at the top. And then you've got like a change in sort of notes. You've got like your sort of flowery notes, and then you've got your heavier notes. And then also, the alcohol sits at the bottom. And then when you're drinking something like super high strength, you can move to the top, and then you reduce the amount of alcohol, and then just graduate through that. And then that also transfers to the taste. So as we all know that smell contributes massively to the taste of something.
Sure.
And so, yeah, then when you go to have it, your brain has more information, first of all. And then if it's getting more information, it makes a better decision. So that's general life advice as well, actually.
Comparing your whiskey glass, which is quite wide, to the gin glass, which is far narrower, what's the thought behind that?
Sorry, what was the other glass?
What's the thought behind the difference from whiskey going to gin?
Oh, okay. Our gin glass is about the same, actually. So the diameter is about the same, because you're dealing with this similar sort of proof in general, but we have like quite a large sort of large volume above the spirit surface with the gin glass, because you're really focusing on aromatics there and just capturing like different sort of botanicals and stuff that can kind of get lost. Whereas with the, what is that?
That's Toby's little bird.
Hilarious.
Are they birds?
That is the best
Birds
bird ever. We need that bird in our lives.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Is it birds or sirens? Because I don't have sirens. I'm in a village. I mean,
No,
I'm
No,
not in
no,
a
it's
village.
birds.
I'm in a-
They are quite loud. We all.
Oh, sorry, that's my bird box.
Your
I just
birds are
mute
quite
myself.
loud.
You carry on.
Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, like going back to like gin, I guess. So we focus on different things with different glasses, but like each of the glasses now have a lot of sort of background with master distillers, really, and I guess professionals in the industry. So we try and focus on a certain sort of profile, and then get like an average mean of what all these different distillers think their particular spirit should taste like. And then we work out what the physical embodiment of those sort of requirements come up to be. And then we run through the testing again with them, and then we end up with a sort of a result. So that's what's happened with the whiskey glass was with two main ones, but then there were a lot of sort of other brands that kind of jumped on board after. And then with the gin one, there was 7 different distilleries, or 6, I can't remember now. And then the bourbon one, there was like, I can't remember, there was like maybe over 10, 12, including like, I don't know, some pretty big brands, I guess, Wild Turkey and Willet up there, and a few different bits of bobs. But they all helped. And it's been such an amazing ride. Like I just never expected this.
There is one more question towards you, Denver. I mean, we looked at your 2 glasses, and then you have a product on your website which is not even glass.
Yeah, we have a traveler. So it's so I travel a lot normally in the normal world. And now I'm actually in Melbourne. So I'm normally based in Mexico City, and I go between sort of San Francisco. I should say hi to Steve next time when I'm up there, but I spend a bit of time in San Fran, and then also in New York and Nashville with all the bourbon and stuff. And there's a couple of clubs there that I'm kind of part of. But I'm in Melbourne now, so I'm in Melbourne actually until there's kind of a vaccine, according to my insurance. So I'm here for a little bit. But I've forgotten what the question was.
It's quite curious to have a glass drinking vessel for whiskey, which is made from, is it stainless steel or aluminium?
No, it's food grade stainless steel, so it doesn't affect the spirit taste at all.
Okay,
but
you can't see it.
Something that you can travel with. Yeah, you can go on adventures with, and our sort of client base or customer base they sort of follow like what Lily and I kind of do. So I'm a mountain biker and a cyclist, and go hiking and on various adventures, I guess, kind of around the world, and we're bringing more of that into the company. And a lot of people are out there on different yachts and going on road trips, and they used to use one that we had, which was the Explorer, and that has like a leather case. But this is basically indestructible, double wall stainless steel, insulates, holds the temperature. It's even the lid you can drink out of, so your mate can have something as well. You can just pour a little bit. When I'm on, like when I play a little bit of golf, and that just clips onto the side of the bag as well. It's been like, it's really an indulgent sort of gift to ourselves in the end, and then it's turned out to be reasonably successful. Again, around the world. So most of the adventure dudes in photography and whiskey, and they've got one, and they're all individually numbered as well. So we just thought we'd try a little different project there, and that's gone well.
I drop your email later. I would love. Do you have a press department? I would love to test that thing.
You just speak to me, but you can just test the shit out of it, man. Like There is no way that you can destroy that. So if you do destroy it, I will replace it immediately.
So that's a challenge that I will rise to, because I am brilliant at destroying everything.
Dawn, you're totally on. You're totally on. You should see my test one. Like, I've dropped it off like the side of buildings, and it's been like through like a lot of the major airports on the outside of a bag just to test.
I tell you, if it's one stress tested, it gets the Dawn tick.
Yeah, sure, go nuts. And there's nothing else. There's no performance flask like it in the world, and we just saw it as a challenge. The other thing on the side is it's turned out to be like exceptional with coffee, which we didn't design for, but it's just it's gone pretty well with coffee. So we won't even mention it on the website still, because it was designed for something else. But most baristas just lose their mind when they try it. So it's just like, okay.
So it's going to go with the travel AeroPress then.
Yeah, maybe one day. I need to learn a little bit more about coffee. So like whenever we do a project, like I spend a lot of time researching. So like the last glass was the agave glass, and that was a 2-year, nearly full-time project in Mexico. So I was living in Mexico, like learning about the spirits and how they're all made and all the different distillation processes, but then also how that fits into the fabric of that particular society. So like we've got like a video that's on the website, a little film that kind of went through some of the process. But like, for example, agave spirits, they you can't see that in isolation. And that's what I'm trying to tell people, is that it kind of goes with the music, and it kind of goes with the food, and it kind of goes with the environment as well. It's all part of a giant fabric. And that really kind of explains the way that mezcal kind of works. But that's a story for another time, I think.
That's fantastic, David. Thank you so much for joining us, especially in these early hours in your country and all these glasses. I can't wait to have a look at your outdoors glass for my little shooting jobs. But thank you so much, and catch you soon. Okay, mate?
Yeah, no problem at all. Nice.
Thanks very much for joining us, Denver. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Bye.
So
Right.
Toby, you're going to post these things on our Facebook page, these different glasses and things. I appreciate it if you'd put his stainless steel one on there, so people will know how to get a hold of it.
Absolutely. And Dawn and I will do a enduration test.
I'm so looking forward to that, because we do a lot of shooting days, and it is always quite stressful where the glass ended up. It's not because it's broken, but if it's on the floor and it's on someone's land, that's not really good. So if it's a double layered stainless steel unbreakable glass, that's quite good, because you're not creating danger to other people. Okay.
We have some questions to look at, if you don't mind. There came in some questions on the Facebook page. One of the most asked question was, is it dependent on the spirit you taste which glass we choose? And I think that's a quite important question, because for me that's a big yes. Certain glasses for different spirits.
Yep.
Dawn is, I think, on the same boat as me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do think, especially with spirits, actually, I tend to use something a bit more standard, and we'll go on to talk about it, but definitely, I have preferred glasses to taste from and to drink from. I think they're two very different things, as kind of I said before, but yeah, I think different spirits carry different esters, carry different characteristics, carry different textures, and it is about how that's best discovered in the glass, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Absolutely. I mean, I made also the same. I saw also the same, and I mean, this is a glass that is quite commonly still used. I mean, this is an ISO tasting glass, and this is a fruit spirit glass, and I mean, this is perfect for fruit, and it shows the fruit. This is more for oak aged stuff, so each glass has its certain.
And I think ISO is a very good glass. I think, as a standard glass for tasting wine, spirits, everything, I think the ISO is actually a very versatile glass.
Bernhard?
It also has to do something. Well, I'm a diluter. We said we talked about. We will talk about water.
You're a water drinker.
It also has something to do with the strength of the spirit. For example, this long Spiegelau glass we are using in the Whiskey Club. This is very good for high strength spirits. So if you drink them neat at cask strength, I think the taller glasses are better. And
Agreed.
if you do it down, it's a different story. But but they have, of course, each glass brings out something special in the spirit. I mean, to say this is better for a fruit spirit or for a grappa, for a pisco, and this one for a gin or for a vodka or a rum. I would generally make a difference between aged spirits and non-aged spirits, and between the strength.
Yep, totally agree.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have one of these magical 1920s blenders glasses from the Whiskey Exchange.
I don't have one.
They sent me 6, so I'll send you over some.
I need one.
I'll send you over some. Don't you worry.
It looks like a bulb from the Christmas tree.
Yes.
With a stem on it.
It's brilliant. Dawn, would you like to tell us a tiny bit about this?
So the Blenders Glass was a collaboration between Sekinda, my wonderful boss, and Angus McRailed, and they based it on actually a 1920s Blenders glass, as the name suggests. Now, I think it's quite an interesting glass. Sekinda always laughs at me because I won't drink out of it. I think I can't drink out of it. I have too big a nose, and my nose gets in the way.
I was just about to say that this is a hard word.
And as a nosing glass, it's fantastic. I mean, I think it really captures the aromas. You know, you get a lovely distribution of air, which allows the phenols to be sort of opened up into the glass. To drink from, I always kind of laugh because I'm practically laid back with my glass. I don't like drinking with this glass, but I love nosing with it, and I think it's a fantastic glass for that, and it's a great little glass. The glass I prefer is this one, so much so that I even have it on my T-shirt. Oh no, it's this side. So our whiskey show.
Oh,
it's advertising. Our whiskey show glass, which is also what we call our perfect measure glass, is the glass I probably use the most, whether I'm drinking for pleasure or whether I am tasting. If I'm not using a wine glass, or an ISO, I use these. And I like these because, one, my nose fits, it's always a handy one. But also because I think it just allows the liquid to coat the side of the glass. See, this is done with Glencairn as well. So, we worked very closely with Glencairn when we came up with these glasses. Well, I had absolutely nothing to do with it. But yeah, I think it's just one of these really nice glasses for tasting, and it allows you to taste, to drink. And actually, what Denver was saying, I think it was Denver was saying about nosing. What's very, very interesting is you get the same. You get those heavy volatiles on the bottom, and then you put your nose to the top, and you get those lovely light floral volatiles. And for me, it's a really, really nice glass to drink from. I drink from it. I taste from it. It's probably my go-to glass. As I said, I'm not drinking wine or champagne.
We should have them at the competition.
Absolutely. So I'm ready. I'll just get Sekinda to hold on. I'm the buyer. I just send them out.
Can you hold up the glass again? Dawn?
So
just show me the glass again.
I keep on forgetting it's the other way around. So this is basically our perfect measure glass. So perfect measure because it's the perfect measure. 50
what I see as a problem sometimes with glasses is also how much you have to pour into it.
Yeah.
I do have a small neat glass, for example.
Yeah.
The original version was much bigger, and you had to add at least 8 centiliters of spirit into it to get it properly. So this is also a problem which you must not underestimate. If you have to pour 2 centiliters, 4 or even more, to do a proper tasting.
Well, Bernhard, sniffing or drinking, the more there's in, the better. No, Dawn?
Well, I mean, at the moment, I'm now moving on to my second rum, which is my favorite drink in the planet.
What do you have here? What's that?
Cramer Sajou. Oops, I keep on this StreamYard goes the other way. Clarence says the Sugar King juice-based rum is absolutely the best drink in the planet. And you know, it works really well with brown spirits and with white spirit.
Okay.
So I think for
This is
me,
pink gin.
I'll be brief about this. I like when I enjoy a cognac, I need a glass that fits my ego. There's nothing more delightful to me than sitting in one of those green leather chairs in my club with a beautiful snifter and a very fine cognac and a really, really good cigar.
I think, Stephen, if I remember rightly, when we were sitting together at the IWC this year, you were talking about your glasses that you like to use, if I remember right.
That's true. And so anyway, maybe not the fullest experience aromatically or flavor-wise, although I think it does the job quite well, but it just suits the occasion. And I think I'm that way with my whiskey glasses as well. Like all of you, I have collections of hundreds of the things. And so if I have people in my home, we just try them. You know, they want to try a glass, we get it out and see how it works. And maybe pour the same thing in 2 or 3 things and see what people like. The nice thing is that I get a lot of really good friends that way.
Steve, you just mentioned a very interesting thing, getting the glasses out and try them. Dirk Hoffman asked us, is there a scientific evidence for a correlation between glass shape, price, and performance for spirit sensory evaluation?
Price?
That's quite tricky.
Price take out of it. Price is just based on what the person thinks their glass is worth and what it's made from. For me, it would be about shape, more so than anything. Gents, I don't know what you think, but for me, it's about shape.
Yeah, that's. I also told him.
You also must something. I would like to say something different about these glasses thing. What you also must not underestimate is getting used to it. I had a decent chat with Jim Beveridge the other year about tasting glasses because I showed him one I developed and he liked it. But he said he is for his work used to this type of glass for the last, 40 years. And he must not change the version of the glass he's using for assessment for work, because this would change probably how he makes Johnny Walker Black Label. So this is one thing you must not forget. If you are used to one glass yourself and are properly or in the job, you shouldn't change it, because then the results would be different.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I also told on the page, I think there is no correlation between those 3, especially as Dawn said, not the price. I mean, there is scientific evidence about shape of a glass, but not in correlation to the other stuff. I think that's the big beauty. There's a price tag for each and every one for us.
Yep.
You know,
price tag for us is very high.
Is it?
Brilliant. Well, you know, the funniest thing about when we judge at competitions, and sometimes they have ridiculously unfitting glasses, and sometimes they're the most amazing, lovely, and it costs a lot of money, and they really invested it. The thing is, when you start tasting, getting used to the glass, as you said, then after a while you'll understand the differences between spirits and the one spirit each itself. So, end of the day, it is really up to the taster to understand the glass itself and how to work it. It's the same as motor racing, the same as shooting. We can shoot a very rubbish gun fairly okay when you get used to it, or shoot a very nice competition gun, but not very nicely, like I do. So I think that's the kind of conclusion there, that many glasses out there, and it is hard to choose, especially with the price coming in, because Daimler and Lilly, this is not cheap. It's quite sturdy, brilliant. So that's fairly expensive. But then imagine that you're paying God knows how much for a bottle of nice rum, whiskey, gin. Then you might need to have the glass to go with it. So it's up to the end user to come up with an idea what is worth to put your beautiful spirit in.
Yeah, definitely.
And yet, my finest whiskey experience was over 20 years ago, my first visit to Lagavulin. And Pinky, Ian, took me into the warehouse and said, "When were you born?" And I told him my age. And so we went over to a fairly rare cask, easily over 50 at the time, years. And he got out the launch, stuck it in there. I mean, he, he's an institution, Ian is. And he put it in a cracked water glass that I don't even remember being clean. But to drink with him in that place out of a very rare cask that was older than I was at the time, very special experience. And it was smashing whiskey. It would have been anyway, but I think, it is the company, it's the time, it's the place, it's the story that goes with it.
I mean, you're totally right. I think the best glass is the one we can rise to toast each other when we hopefully see us very soon. Cheers, boys.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Slanjava?
Of course. The best glass is the one you're invited to.
You'll not have to pay.
Definitely. Cheers to that. Slanjava.
Slanjava.
Thank you all.
Cheers, Slanjava.
Dawn, are we allowed to say Slanjava when drinking rum? Oops.
Yeah, I have I am so unpolitically correct, it's not even funny. I just say anything that works.
As long as the message is clear.
Yeah, the rum industry's given up on me a long time ago, so we're all right.
You're just fine.
I mean, we're running over an hour now. I think it's time to say goodbye to our viewers. It's been a pleasure having you here. I hope you got some interesting insights. Toby, or anyone in the round, any last famous words before we finalize the evening?
I just thank you guys so much because it's helped a lot to understand glasses and approach by spirit experts to listen to, and thank you. It was quite educational, so thank you.
Okay.
Always fun.
Thank you for inviting me, guys.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. You've been brilliant. Okay. I think we go offline now, and thank you so much. We shall meet in a couple of weeks' time also.
Of course. And we all stay in the back after we go off. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.